and thank you for joining. And those of you who end up joining by a recording, I hope that this finds you helpful. Stephen Friend, leading the effort at SAGE. We have been doing any number of studies over the last 9 years, all on wearables, all about empowering people to be able to track and follow things that matter to them. And the particular project that we're going to talk about here, which is the CZI Rare is One effort that we had a large group Zoom call just about a week ago. There is, as you know, because you're members, a partnership with PLRC, Patient-Led Research Consortium, Long COVID, that has us helping to do a study of those with long COVID. And over, I think, Daniel Lee, maybe like 9 months ago, it became apparent that if we were going to do such a study, that we really should have a subarm that was looking at dysautonomia. And if we were going to do that, we were just very excited. That sometimes people say that, but I really mean it. We were very excited that there was a company, small new company, Lumia, that was thinking extremely hard, extremely well about what might be needed, what might be collected. And within a month or so, we decided to form a working research partnership with Lumia. And the result of that is that we have this 20 to 22 person subarm that are lucky enough to be directly following what's happening in dysautonomia. And at the heart of that, this is not a snowball. This is my Lumia. We have been enabled in a way that's coming about. We wish we had all the pieces in place, but it's coming about to the point where we're getting ready for those devices to be functional, and soon not just functional, connected to the Lumia app, but I hope in the next week or two, actually connected into the study app. And I just wanted to set that stage. I do want Emma and Daniel Vung to say a quick hi before passing it over to Daniel Lee.
Yeah, so hi everybody. So sorry for my camera off. I'm calling from the car in the middle of a Colorado snowstorm. But I want to just say thank you to all of you who have not only, given your time and given us a lot of patience as we've gotten everything figured out in the long COVID arm, but also, for being a part of this very special sub arm. And thank you to those who joined live on a Friday night, and as well as thank you to those who are watching this probably about a week later. Daniel?
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel. Hope you are now able to put a face to the name, but it's been a pleasure working with everyone up to this point. And for everyone that has a Lumia, I'm excited to see what kind of feedback you guys have, and I'm looking forward to helping you through this whole process.
And as we pass it from one Daniel Vung to Daniel Lee, I just want to say one quick thing in case you hadn't heard it and you just joined. During this, we really try hard to protect privacy, and all those who are in the subarm are, as participants, not visible to us, and yet we have to have a good dialogue going on between the lead, Daniel Lee, and yourself, and that will be done in two ways. On the bottom of your screen, on your Zoom screen, you'll see a question mark that, or a Q&A with a question mark that allows you to put in questions that you have. And for a while, or at least until Emma gets back to where she is, I'll try to help field your questions or comments there. Or there's a chat which you can put to the host and the panelists. So Daniel, I'm going to send it over to you now, but as you go on, if you want to get some feedback or if you want to ask, that will easily be heard, recognized by the people who are on the call, and hopefully they will feel interested in participating through either that Q&A tab or the chat box. Over to you.
All right. Well, thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Daniela, and the whole For You and Me team, and all of the people participating in this sub-arm. If I guess we haven't met because you're de-identified, but I'm one of the co-founders and one of the inventors of the Lumia device. We've been working on this for several years now, and we're kind of in a early adopter phase of Lumia. It's like still sort of beta-y as y'all might have been experiencing. There's still some kind of UX oddities, and we're still working through things. One of the things that we actually just realized like a week ago that's being fixed is all of the onboarding materials that normally should show in the app were not showing, likely at the time that you activated. So you may actually be kind of going into the Lumi experience without much help. And hopefully today's I've prepared some materials to help make it a little bit easier to understand how you can use Lumia and get the most out of Lumia, and how you might be able to apply it and see if, and we believe like you can increase your flow and help manage symptoms better, and that's the main hypothesis, and that's what we're trying to in partnering with Stephen and the team here, better improve the usability and help this actually be more practically useful. So that is kind of the idea here. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Um, can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's looking good.
Great. Okay, so I'll just get into it. So yeah, this is member onboarding. Some of the materials that I'm about to share aren't quite. One wasn't shown in the app when it should have been. Two, they might not yet be in the app because we're still building the kind of experiences to help people get the most out of Lumia. So this is a little bit of preview of some things that may become more readily visible in the mobile app. So there's 5 steps to get the most out of Lumia, where it is in this current phase. Step 1, you need to get a good fit. If you don't get a good fit, you don't get good signal quality, and it's really hard to like actually get anything out of Lumia. So that's step 1, and that needs to be resolved first. Step 2 is learning flow basics. I realize many of the people that we've been working with and trying to serve like are extremely experienced and already know the flow basics, but that's not true of everyone. And a lot of people are not fully understanding and haven't necessarily read the science as some of our members have. So I want to just kind of cover some of the low-level basics. And then step 3 with Lumia is there's a feature called live mode, which we realize many people have not even, because the onboarding doesn't tell you it exists, don't know that it exists. But we definitely encourage using live mode experiments because that's one of the best ways to control for variables and make sure you can learn, oh, this actually increases my flow and this decreases my flow, and you can then learn about your body. And then after learning about your body, you want to apply those learnings to try to increase your flow, and you're in general trying to have more flow. It's not really like a score, but your goal is to have higher flow over time. And if we can have better stable flow, we believe that longer term, as well as just like your days should have less symptoms. And then 5 is a key step right now in this current stage of Lumia's early existence. There are known issues that can cause quite a bit of confusion. So I want to just cover a couple of really important ones and just point you to where you can see what the known issues are so that those don't confuse you from a bit understanding how to use Lumia. So I'll go over each of these steps. So step 1 in finding a good fit, this is one of the hardest ones, and what we've been spending several months trying to get better for more and more people. The ideal Lumia fit balances 3 factors. It should be comfortable. You're leaving it in for days at a time. It should be stable, so it shouldn't be popping out so easily. If you rub your head against a pillow, yeah, it can come out. Or if you're showering and you're rubbing your ear, it can come out. But other than that, it should be relatively like staying in your ear without popping out and losing, and with the risk of losing it. And then the final is signal quality. That it has to be, there are lenses that you can see on the bottom of your Lumia that contact your ear. Those lenses have to touch your ear to get a signal, or else if it's floating and if it's not actually getting pushed against your ear correctly, the Lumia just can't actually take the measurements it needs to. So those are the 3 factors. And in the specific part of the ear that Lumia is in, it's really hard to make sure we get all of those 3. So part of how we've done that in the Lumia fitting system is we have 18 different silicone jackets. That's those little silicone things. Here's one example here. Actually, I'm going to stop my blurred background. So that's one of these. You have received 6 of them in the packages that you were sent. So there's a set of 6 jackets. You received the initiation kit that has the 6 jacket selections that we've based off of the virtual ear scan. So prior to shipping your Lumia to you, you provided ear scans. We have a fitter that reviews those ear scans, and then we have several sets that we then match to a set. And then there's an app-guided fitting experience to help you find from those 6. The first one that comes on Lumia is not necessarily the best one for you. There's an app experience that helps you find which of the 6 is best for you. And then finally, the virtual ear scans is not perfect. So it is possible that of the 6 we sent you, you may not have what is the optimal fit for you. So if you've kind of gone through and tried the 6 and followed the app and it's not working, then please do reach out to member support, because we actually do have several more sizes, and some it's just we didn't get you into the right size. So these are very important steps. You need to get a good fit to be able to benefit from the Lumia experience properly. Now, there are tools that we've built into various tools we built to try to help members find the better fit. So one is the jacket sizing tutorial. So this is supposed to show right in the beginning of setting up your Lumia. Sometimes it doesn't in the past few weeks. And if not, on the homepage at the top left, there's a resource center, and you can trigger the jacket sizing tutorial from the resource center. Now, this helps you learn how to wear Lumia, how to put it in. It's kind of a funny place in your ear, so there's a little bit of a teaching you, this is how you actually position it in your ear, this is how it's supposed to look, there's examples here of how it shouldn't look, so definitely take a look at the jacket sizing tutorial. What the jacket sizing tutorial is really focused on is helping figure out what is the right length. So these like legs here that you see, there's varying length of those legs, and that's very important into hooking into your ear correctly. If you see here, kind of hooks into this lower ridge. It needs to hook under that lower ridge to kind of wedge itself in. If the legs are too short, it's not going to touch that. If they're too long, it's going to lose its footing and not quite be able to grab that lower ridge. So that is step 1 of trying to get the good fit, is you have to make sure you have the right length. After that, there is, and for most people, the virtual fitting is very good at finding the right length. But getting a good signal quality and comfort is then done in the Tune Your Jacket tool. So again, in the top left of your app, there's a resource center. If you click that, there's a Tune Your Jacket tool, and it'll tell you what your current jacket size is if you entered it in correctly. And then it'll give you recommendations for if you're at an A4 and you're not having great signal quality and you don't have enough data, it can then tell you to go to an A5. One thing that you can notice here, and you might notice in some of the jackets that you were sent, is if you look at the difference between A4 and A5 here, A5 has this little pillow shim thing that helps to increase and help the lenses get pushed into your ear a little bit better. But so there's just a little more material, but so it helps push it in more. For some ears that might push it too much, then you actually have to go from A5 to A4 to try to reduce how much pressure is being applied. So that is kind of how the comfort and signal quality trade-off works. There's also the real-time, so we are building a real-time fit quality check tool that triggers to help you assess, and you can run a minute test and then see, do you have a great fit or a good fit or a poor fit? But that's been on hold for several weeks now. The main way that tool is built is actually just doing a live mode, which you can trigger. There's a plus button in your mobile app, and you can trigger a live mode. A live mode is going to force Lumia, if it's connected to your light station correctly and you're within range, it's going to tell Lumia to continuously measure once a second approximately. And that's going to give, versus normally Lumia only takes a measurement once every 4 minutes. So it's much more sporadic, but live mode lets you do continuous beat to beat measurements. So the real-time fit quality checking tool really just triggers a live mode. And then we're looking at the noisiness of the data. So you can actually just do this before the real-time fit quality check, is run a live mode, and then look, when I'm just sitting there, you should have your flow should look like this. So flow is the white dots and which is on the left axis here from 0 to 100. And heart rate is the blue dots, which is on the right axis from 30 beats per minute to 180 beats per minute. If you have a good fit, you should have it look nice and tight if you're just sitting there. Versus if you have a poor fit, you're going to see a lot of fuzziness of noise like what you can see on the left. So the live mode can actually be a helpful tool. Real-time fit quality will make this easier later and more intuitive later. But for now, you can use live mode to kind of just assess, so am I actually getting good signal quality? And you could do this test really quickly. You can also even play around with how you position it in your ear to see, oh, actually, like there for some people's ears, if you tilt Lumia slightly, it helps the lenses get better contact and you can get better signal quality. So live mode, you can just do live mode to learn this. It takes one other thing to note is that Lumia, after you touch it, it's going to take about several seconds, up to 8 to 10 seconds for it to stabilize and then start outputting again. So you can adjust it and then give it like 10, maybe give more like 15, 20 seconds before drawing a conclusion. And then you can try adjusting again and give it another 20 seconds. And then your goal is to find the best fit that lets you get a nice, clean signal. So that's how you can use live mode to check your fit in real time. And then, of course, again, as a reminder, member support. So you can, inside of the app, you can hit contact us. And member support can then help you find better jackets if none of the ones that you were sent work, which is possible. It's not common, but it is possible. As a virtual fitting algorithm can make mistakes. So one other thing is that part of as we're learning from the Lumia beta members, like a lot of people are doing the fitting correctly. Some people we are not able to, like some people may not have read everything that I'm forcing everyone to listen to now, and are successful at getting a good fit. And what we've been finding so far is there's a couple of factors. One is we know that Lumia cannot fit some ears where we can hit all of the requirements of being comfortable, stable, and getting good signal quality. So we previously ran studies to give ourselves some confidence that around 10% of ears may not actually be able to meet all those requirements. But what we're finding so far in our several hundred beta members is that it's more like 20% are not able to get a solid fit, which that's quite a bit. So in this cohort, there's maybe quite a few of you that may still be struggling to get reasonable signal quality or make Lumia still stay in your ear. So that's just one thing that we are very well aware of and very transparent of and has been a main focus of ours. And that's what we actually have. You may have seen this. We are working, we actually finished designing a clip, which is an upcoming option for those 20% of people that are just the jackets are not working for you. And so this is an alternate way to wear Lumia. You just pop I'm actually wearing one now, but you pop your Lumia out and there's another silicone kind of jacket that you place your Lumia inside of, and it just actually wraps around your ear, and then it's kind of like an earring, and then you just clip it on like this, so that is compared to the jackets, it's a much easier one size fits all clip, so some of the pros is just one size fits most, not necessarily all. Time to fits, you just clip it on, so it's actually seconds for some, minutes for others to adjust the tightness. So far, we haven't updated this yet. We're not sure if it's 90% plus. It's definitely a vast majority of people. So if in the 20% of people that the jackets are not working, there's another roll of the die that maybe there's another 80, 90% that the clip can work. And so there can be one, and that should get us to 96, 98% fit success. So, and then this is a lot harder to lose because it really grabs onto your ear. I've been showering and sleeping with it for almost a month, and it's never come off, whereas Lumia sometimes can come off when I'm sleeping and rolling around on it. And the aesthetic is quite different, and it's a little larger, and it kind of can interfere with some like AirPods and some more headphones compared to Lumia. So there are some pros and cons, but it is an option for getting a good fit. This is not ready yet. We're getting our first production samples at the end of the month. Depending on how good those samples are from our suppliers, hopefully we can just stay full steam ahead, build a bunch, and then we can just ship it to y'all. But it may happen May. It might bleed into June. We're not certain yet until we get like quality samples. All right, so that's step one, fit. It's been a hard challenge, and it's been a this has been a long journey. We're almost there. Apologies to some of you if you're in that group that are still struggling with the fit. I know it's a very frustrating experience, and that's why we've been working on this so much, but there are new solutions on the way. Okay, step two is to learn the flow basics. So for some of you, this may be basic and pedantic, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, with blood flow in most orthostatic, or I think you all know orthostatic, or like when you're standing, your symptoms are worse. In most of these conditions, what's causing not enough blood flow to get to your brain is not enough blood flow getting to your heart. So you need to actually get more blood to your heart in order for your heart to pump it to your brain, because the heart needs to be filled with blood before it can squeeze blood out. If the blood's not getting back, then it's squeezing an empty sac, and that's not very effective at pumping blood to your brain. So that is the most important thing with orthostatic conditions, is increasing the blood to your heart. So this is from a journal, from Journal of Medicine, but I drew this little heart here, totally not the shape of your actual heart. But like when you're standing, the gravity pulls blood into the lower part of your body, and in many orthostatic conditions, it's not, and long COVID, it's been demonstrated the body's not doing as good a job of getting that blood back up to the heart. So then the heart's not being filled, and it's not able to squeeze blood to your brain. Versus when you sit down, you're creating more compression in the lower part of your body, and there's less gravity pulling down, that you can get more blood up to your heart. And then if you lay down, then there's a ton of blood filling your heart, and you feel a lot better. So that's really what's going on with blood flow. Your heart can only pump what it receives. If you can get more blood to your heart, it's able to pump more blood to your brain. That is the most important thing to focus on with blood flow conditions. Now, the second point is, because of that, you have the power to change your blood flow. Like, there are ways that you can increase the blood return to your heart. Posture, as you can see in this little graphic here, can very much change how much gravity is able to push blood to your heart. Movement, so there are ways that, for example, if you flex or you're moving your legs, you can actually help create more pressure to squeeze blood back up to your heart. Some of you may be familiar with the calf as a second heart. The calf can, and moving your legs can help actually like pump like a heart, to pump blood back to fill your heart. Hydration. So the more filled up the tank is, it's easier for if you're the baseline higher, it's easier to get blood to your heart. So hydration has a very big impact to how much blood is able to return to the heart. You can apply compression, which helps squeeze, and apply pressure to squeeze. It's kind of like squeezing a toothpaste tube. You're squeezing more blood up back towards your heart. And then temperature actually makes a big difference as well. In general, if it's cold, your body vasoconstricts, and meaning all the blood vessels get tightened. And if they get tightened, it's actually using blood vessel constriction to squeeze more blood back up to your heart. Whereas if it's very hot, this is why on a hot day, you can feel really bad, because the opposite is happening. Your blood vessels are expanding, they're vasodilating, and so the blood is not making it to the heart. And so these are all factors. Well, it's not the responses aren't as you expect, or are different from healthy versus people that have like blood flow issues. There's an ability to be able to control for it more and reduce the impact these issues have on your lived experience. So, step 3. So we covered getting a good fit is very important, and then understanding how does blood flow work. It's all about getting blood back to your heart. And then step 3 is, let's learn how to get more blood back to your heart. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is using live mode experiments. So you can use these live mode experiments because you can run and see things really quickly. And what you'll learn is there are tens of ways you can increase your flow. There's hundreds of ways you can drop your flow. So it's kind of like there's uppers and downers that are all battling each other, and you're trying to figure that out. So when you're doing that, it's very important to compare apples to apples, because you don't want to do something that you think should increase your flow and then accidentally do something else that has a much bigger impact to decreasing your flow, and then you're not actually measuring the effects of the thing you're trying to measure. For example, one of our team members had a Northera, which works really well for her usually. It's a medication that vasoconstricts. It squeezes the blood back up towards her heart. But then because she was feeling well, she went grocery shopping. And then she was like, oh, my Northera doesn't actually help my blood flow that much. But actually, it's because my blood flow went really low after I took my Northera. But what actually happened? The Northera was working, but grocery shopping and standing and being upright was a stronger effect than the medicine. And so she actually saw a decrease in flow. So that's very important, is you actually have to control for these what we call confounding factors. You don't want to confound your experiment. You need to make sure you're controlling it and not making changes, and you're comparing apples to apples. You're holding everything else constant and just comparing medicine versus not medicine as an example. And so that's why live mode experiments for now are one of the most powerful ways to learn these things, because if they're very short, you reduce the risk that you're going to accidentally do something that has a really big impact. Like, I'm just going to test in this short time period. All other variables and factors hold constant. I'm just going to test when I put my feet up versus put my feet down. And put my feet up, you can see, oh yeah, I can increase my flow. So these fast feedback loops make it easier to see the cause and effect. You can see, oh, I put my feet up and now my flow goes up. I put it down. So the shorter the delay, the clearer the signal. You have less confounding factors. You can see causation better. And in order to do this, it's best to start with experiments that are easy to just turn on and turn off, turn on and turn off, such as lay down, put your feet up, put your feet down, put your feet up, put your feet down. And you can see, oh yeah, it's definitely, I do that and there's an effect. Versus some things are harder to just turn on and turn off. Like you can't just have a lot of salt and then not have a lot of salt. The time scale starts getting really long. So a starter experiment, as I was mentioning, lying down, put with your feet flat, then put it up. And then you can do that a couple of times in a row, and you can really get statistical confidence that, yeah, legs up the wall is really increasing my blood flow. I'm actually going to quickly show this little video here of an example of a live mode experiment. So this is exactly what I had mentioned, where she starts sitting, and then she lays down, and flow goes up. You see that's the white dots here. And then she puts her feet up, and she can get more blood flow going. So her flow goes up because more blood is returning to her heart. Then she sits down and then crosses her legs, but less blood is getting to her heart compared to putting her legs up. Then she puts her feet down on the floor, gravity's pulling blood into her legs, and you see flow is dropping. And then she crosses her legs again, and you can see blood flow comes right back up because she's squeezing and doing compression to get more blood to her heart. So she's doing this a couple of times, A, B, on, off. And so you can see, oh yeah, definitely where I put my legs, it's gonna change my blood flow. Now, what she just did is she actually, I think, just removed her compression. Oh, and now she's putting her compression back on. So you can see cross-legged with compression, without compression. She put the compression back on, and you can see compression helps again. Not that much compared to your legs. Laying down gets more blood flow again. Standing really drops her blood flow. So these are some of the things that you can see. Okay, now I mean, yeah, I'm gonna stop there because I want to leave some time for questions. But that's the idea of a live mode experiment. You can do these things and test on, off, and see that really helps, or it doesn't really help. Some things actually that people do are it's not being done right, so it's not making a difference, such as compression, like the wrong compression. So continuing on that, yeah, some things are really easy to see quickly. They have dramatic, rapid effects like your body posture. These are postural, orthostatic related intolerance after all, and it's easy to turn these on and off. Some interventions are much slower and more subtle. So like salt and hydration can take days to, really salt can take days to change your blood volume. And so it's harder to prove causation because so many factors can happen over days versus in a few minutes, there's nothing else changing. Some of the effects can vary by timing. So sometimes you might be putting your compression on and you see a big difference. And sometimes you put your compression on, you see no difference. Parts of that, there's a lot of dynamics, but parts of that is your body's already squeezing sometimes more at different times. Part of that is if you're more dehydrated, like in the morning, most people are more dehydrated. You're starting at a lower flow when you're upright. And so then if you drink water or put compression, you often can see you have more room to increase. So it does vary because it depends on your starting state. And then, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, real life is a mess of uppers and downers. There's lots of things that are pushing you up and pulling you down. It's affected by so many things. So you can think you're testing one variable like a medication, but then unconsciously do a flow increasing activity like lay down after you take your medication. And then you can think, oh, I took a medication and I have a flow increase, but maybe your flow increase was just because you laid down. So that's where it is complicated because there's so many factors that change your flow. Same thing like during a flare, you might take more meds, and then wouldn't conclude that the meds caused the dip. It's actually that you're feeling worse, so you took more medications because your flow is lower. So that's one of the things that can be a little bit challenging. And again, why live mode experiments are a very powerful way to control for these things. And so this is a little the engineer in me, this might be lost on some people, but confounding variables or factors is like noise. So you can't really see what's going on. And that can mask the signal you're looking for. You might be trying to look for this signal, but it's hidden inside of the noise. But if you can remove the fuzz, you can remove the noise, then you can see the signal that you're looking for. So that's the idea, is live mode experiments help you get rid of the noise so you can see what you're trying to see. So here are a few live mode experiments that are good starter ones to try, and very practical to making lifestyle adaptations. So one is just figuring out which posture in your daily situation is best for your flow. So you can try things like one of our beta members said there. You can start with your legs on the floor, then try sitting cross-legged, then legs on the floor, then cross-legged. And you'll probably see that your legs on cross-legged is applying a lot more compression than your compression stockings to your legs, and it's squeezing a lot more blood up to your heart. You can also try, if not everyone can put their legs up on a table if in like work situations, but I mean, I personally now sit, because I actually see it, that when I sit cross-legged too, I have an increase in flow because I am still increasing more blood return to my heart, even as someone that's not, like, I wouldn't say I have orthostatic intolerance. But so that's an adaptation I made, and I actually feel like I have more energy to work throughout the day, which is actually really cool. But like if you can, when you're working from home, then you can try, like when you're at home, I'm just gonna like just put your feet right up on the table and just see, is that better? And maybe you can, and that is an adaptation you can make in your working situation if you're working, or if in your living situation. Now, that's one test, is just figuring out what's the best way to sit, what's the best way to lay down. When I spend most of my day, how can I just have more of my day with better flow? The next thing is compression garments. So this is a little bit harder, and the effects are often not as good, but you can try wearing, you have to hold your posture constant. So I try to use your default posture and make sure you don't change from that. But you can try putting on compression. You can try putting on abdominal binders or your compression stockings. Some things are easier to do on off, because some of these compression can be really hard to wrestle on. But the idea is, there's many different brands of compression. There's many different sizes and tightnesses. There's like 20 to 30 or the MMHG. There's varying levels of tightness. And many people, a lot of my friends who have like dysautonomia, when I ask them about it, they just buy some compression, or not even compression. They just buy long socks and think it's compression. It does nothing. And so that's one of the things that is helpful to look at is, there's not really good guidance on what are good compression garments. And I think there's so much variation, and a lot of people are not buying things that are really doing anything. And so I think one of the benefits here is figuring out which of your compression garments, if you have some, are actually beneficial, because some are really hard to wrestle on and do very little for you, versus some are much better at doing something for you. So that's one of the things to try to optimize with being able to measure blood flow. These I'd recommend spending more time after you put them on, because you want to make sure your body can settle after fighting the garment. So if it took you 2 minutes, and wait another 2 minutes so your body can go to a stable position. So you need more time to let your body settle down. The other thing is, a lot of people, like, you can't stay of sitting in a position or laying down all the time. You have to get up. And so when you do get up, there are adaptations that you can make to when you have to stand up. And so, as I mentioned, the calf muscle pump, but for example, like what you could do is, you could see, if I'm forced to stand up, you can figure out what is most effective for you to, when you're standing, keep your blood flow up. So if you're standing still, you can try then, wobble's kind of a funny word, but just like you can kind of move back and forth, so you're kind of pumping your calves. And then you want to stand still again and let your body settle out. And then you can actually just try standing on your tiptoes, like balance yourself against the wall and just see, okay, if I'm standing on my tiptoes or even walking on my tiptoes, that's actually going to squeeze a lot more blood back upwards. And then go back to standing still for a bit. You could do calf raises, where you kind of like stand on your tiptoes and go back down, and you're just pumping blood back upwards. Stand still again. You could try squeezing your quads and your butt, just like, it's almost like, I mean, yeah, it's just, you're just flexing, and you're trying to basically have your quads and your butt squeeze what the available, as well as you can squeeze your abdomen a little. and then see how much more that can increase your flow. You ideally want to do something that you can hold for long enough to see the effects, and then you can just try even walking in place to see, oh, if I keep moving versus standing still, how does that affect my flow? And so this is a long sequence, and it's going to be exhausting for some. So I wouldn't recommend doing all of this at once, but it is something that you can do to try to figure out actually what's my most effective that I can apply in daily life to increase the blood return to my heart. There's also many experiments you can do with hydration. So you can try a fluid bolus. This is one that is more common in orthostatic hypotension, but one that is recommended that I actually have seen this effect on myself in the morning when I'm dehydrated. But whereas sometimes throughout the day, I'm not as dehydrated because I ate a bunch of food and I was drinking water that I don't really see these effects. But if you drink, this has been shown on a couple different conditions, a few different conditions. If you drink a decent amount of, so 500 milliliters at least of water fairly quickly, it's a bolus effect, and it can cause a within 5-10 minutes an increase in blood flow that lasts for 30 minutes to an hour. So it's kind of cool to do. The way I did it was I was sitting down in the morning. I had a large glass of water right next to my bed, and then I sat up and I put my feet on the floor, so my flow was kind of lower. And then I just had a big glass of water before getting up, and I sat there for another like 15 minutes. And I should have taken a screenshot of this, but I just saw my flow go up, and that was like kind of a cool effect to observe. For some people have a stronger bolus effect than others. Sometimes it works better at different times depending on hydration status than others, but it's something to kind of learn about how does your body respond to hydration. And you can also try that now with electrolytes. There's some studies that say fluid bolus should not be with electrolytes, but I've seen people do fluid bolus with electrolytes, so you can see does it still work for you. And so those are some things to just understand and get a better intuition of how does your body intake hydration. Another thing that may be worth testing, these are a lot of tests to run, it's a lot to remember, is experimenting with time of day. Because there's so much variability, like in the morning before meds, and you're dehydrated, it can be much worse for some people versus like after meals, it can look quite different. But like there's variability and everyone has slightly a different circadian rhythm and diurnal pattern. So it's kind of helpful if you have it's kind of requires a lot of wherewithal, but to do a few sand tests and then kind of see what time of day is actually am I more like kind of low flow sensitive. And so that is another experiment. You can like develop a better intuition, and then maybe you can make some decisions around like, okay, if I'm lower flow in the morning, I really have to get on top of my hydration and make sure I'm on my meds in the morning and make sure I wear compression. Maybe don't want to wear it all day. Like those are some of the things that you can kind of learn. And the idea of this is learning about your body and better understanding it so you can better take care of it. And then step 4 is to then apply those learnings. So we're doing all these things, why? To learn, but we need to apply those learnings to receive the benefits on an ongoing basis. And so we want to apply them, like you want to learn your posture and apply the posture. You want to be using your best performing compression. You want to if you have to stand smartly in the ways that help keep your blood flow going better. You want to understand what dehydration looks like as your flow is dropping in certain positions and know when to respond to low hydration. And the other dynamic here is because you can measure it not in live mode, just it's constantly measuring. And if you see your flow index is dropping, then you can see, oh, like I'm actually pretty low flow right now. I need to start doing the things that increase my flow as a reactive measure and don't just stay in low flow because that can lead into a flare and cause maybe PEM and other effects. So the idea here is try to optimize for increased flow, try to learn and apply it in a timely fashion. Okay, so and then what we're actually quite interested in, I'm not sure if Stephen we can do this, is if people feel like they understood and were able to run these like kind of live mode experiments and feel like, oh, I've learned some ways to do that. And then we've run some studies, but we're interested in this group here. If you're able to run some of these studies and find what works, and then try to do like basically get flow high scores, like try to keep your flow higher, then and then do you actually notice that you can there's a symptom reduction and you feel more and you know what to do when things happen. Go ahead, Stephen.
Daniel, just one quick thing because you said it so well there, and Daniel Fung I think can help enable this because there are these biweekly calls with the study coordinator, I think that there's a really nice opportunity to both follow it on the compass, right? So we have this compass where people can tag and do things, but also track it. And at the end of the call, we'll make sure that that gets reinforced, because I do think that for the participant and for yourself, for ourselves, having a way where there's sort of the equivalent of a guided opportunity to be following those things and collating them might be nice. So back over to you. But I think that concept that you gave of being a little more active in how we're collecting it is something that is feasible. Let's see how we can do that. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you. Okay, now last one. This was very important. Is there are known issues that can really mess up conclusions. So this is just how the algorithm works. I think the most important one is data during low heart rates. And we're finding it doesn't even have to be less than 50 beats per minute. But the way that Lumia works, so this is an example of like the flow looks horrible. It's dropping into these really low values. What happens right now, it can be up at like even 55 beats per minute, even like 55, 56 even, that as the heart rate gets lower, that means the time between like each pulse, heartbeat pulse is going longer. And the way that Lumia's algorithm, it's still an older algorithm we have not yet been able to update. The way it works is it's kind of looking at how long is your heart squeezing for. It's really looking at the ejection period. But as your heart period gets longer, our ability to choose the right points of when the heart is ejecting, it gets tricked, and it's actually choosing the wrong point. So it says that your heart is ejecting for a very short time when actually squeezing for a very long time. And so it just gets tricked when the heart rate gets slow and the period of each heartbeat gets long. So that's kind of a main one that really is what's driving the sleep issue. So if you're wearing it during sleep, you might notice, I mean, the heart rate should be super accurate, but the flow index, because of this issue of how we like are measuring the squeeze time, it is it can look really bad, but that's not actually real. So this sometimes can mess up morning experiments because as you get up, your heart rates are naturally lower in that part of the day, and you have an increased incidence or likelihood of your heart rates being in like a problematic zone. We are trying to fix this. There's just been so many. We've been so focused on fit as a company, but we're gonna get back to algorithm improvements to make this so that we are choosing the right thing, even if your heart rate's low. But that's just a known issue right now. This is the flow index during low heart rates, as well as there's a blood pressure issue where we know that in hypotension, your heart might be squeezing for the same amount of time, but your flow is way lower, and there's a correction factor for that we have not implemented yet. So there's another thing that's not quite right there. It'll still show that your flow is low, but it might not be as low as it really is. I would say that those are the primary two situations. So like the low BP is often one that shows up during a blood pressure, shows up in a fainting episode. So during a fainting not for everyone, flow should drop low, but if we don't correct for the blood pressure, the flow might not, it'll drop, but it may not drop as like dramatically low as what is really going on. And so that's the low blood pressure example of like where there's limitation. These shouldn't affect the one that really affects live mode experiments is the heart rate one, because sometimes depending on the time of day, your heart rate can be in this low region. So that's the main one to be aware of, and one of the high priorities for our algorithm engineer. Okay, all right. That is actually. Oh well, yeah. I think it might be hard to do live mode experiment because we can't interact. But that's the materials for the day. Those are the 5 steps. To recap, it's really about you got to get a good fit first. It's really hard to do anything without that. Understand the basics, which is again all about getting blood flow to your heart. Use live mode experiments to learn about your body, and then try to apply those learnings to increase your flow over time. And you will be able to see that you can keep your blood flow higher on average if you're doing these things. And then make sure to be aware of really the low heart rate issue, because that can kind of trick and make the wrong conclusion that, oh, my blood flow dropped so much. But it might not actually be your blood flow drop. It might be our low heart rate issue. So yeah, that's everything I had.
Perfect. Why don't you leave that slide up for a moment? I want to make 2 or 3 comments before we open up for a question. But first, that was so helpful. I think it frames things that will get people aware of how to, and then things to try. Um, First thing I wanted to say was when participants in the sub-study are having issues about fit, about some aspects that are coming up, I think what we've talked about is your primary person to connect with is Daniel Fung, who will connect with the group at Lumia. And it may be that for certain things it makes more sense, and he'll be the judge, Daniel Fung will be the judge of it, to connect more directly. But I think so that we can track what's going on, the idea is that if there are questions about what's going on, feed them through Daniel Fung. And I really appreciate Daniel Lee, that the group at Lumia has set itself so that it is so accessible for anything that comes up, that I think that loop is going to go well. The second is that we'll put the recording for this tutorial up on our so the participants can get to it. But we'll also put any questions in a live format, so that if you are listening to this and you are doing so by recording, you'll still be able to put your questions, and we'll still keep track of the answers. So we'll have a place where all those questions are able to come now or later. And with that, I want to check and make sure before we open up to other questions that Emma and Daniel Voom, do you have any comments off of what you just heard, or should we see if there are any questions among those that are listening? And anything, Emma, that you wanted to bring up, or Daniel Voom?
I really appreciated this presentation, because I didn't even know that the live mode thing was available, and I think that's really interesting. And now people can really use it to really implement this and make their blood flow better. So yeah, I just really like the whole thing in general.
Yeah, it's one of the things, Daniel Lee, that I'd like to see is we may actually come up with almost like a little template of how to track this worked, this didn't. You know what I mean? There'll be some similarity in people trying things, and so we should talk about having us collect something that people, by putting it into a certain sort of bins, might help you have more information on sort of what we're finding instead of being stochastic. All right, so with that, let's open up to any questions. So at the bottom of the screen, if you're in the mood to do it on this Friday night, there's that Q&A button that allows you to write something, and but there's no need to necessarily do that. Anyone inclined to ask any questions live? We won't know who you are.
I can bring up a question that I had heard from some participants as they were enrolling in the study, which Daniel Lee, maybe you can address now. If not, we can address it later. But I had some questions about what participants should do with their Lumias at the end of the study.
You know, I don't think we've really discussed that thoroughly. So I
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that question, because I think we kind of rushed. We just didn't really think through all of that yet. So let's talk about it and figure that
Okay.
out. Yeah.
So those of you who had asked me that, just know that we'll get back to you as soon as we have an answer for that.
That was a good question.
And then I think if I mean, this was a lot of really great information, Daniel, that I think a lot of people were probably hearing for the first time. So maybe, you know, it needs to be digested a little bit. If participants have questions once they get a chance to kind of think through this, and maybe once we send out the recording, that will be easier for people to kind of go through it on their own. We can certainly compile questions that come in afterwards and make sure that everybody gets the answers to those as well.
I think that it was such a coherent presentation that you should, Daniel, feel as if success instead of like, what did you mean by, what was this? So we want to thank you for hosting. This is like so valuable. And we'll figure out whether we do something like this towards the end, doing like at the end of the study. It may be that people, after they've used it, may really have some questions where the dialogue is otherwise. So those participants who are listening to it, if they feel as if more like at the end of the study, a good sort of follow-up call about really particular things that they want to do, we'll be glad to schedule this again. But for now, I want to just thank everyone who got on, who's listening, and particularly Daniel. Thank you so much for putting it together.
Of course. Thanks, everybody.